From famously vowing to impeach Donald Trump to describing the trauma over receiving constant death threats, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib hasn't been afraid to ruffle feathers ever since getting elected to serve Michigan's 13th district in 2018. Hey guys, I'm Dina, and I got a chance to sit down with the Congresswoman to discuss why Americans have yet to receive the $2,000 checks her party promised them, the aftermath of the Capitol attack, what it's like to have so many millionaire colleagues, and much more. Do you think that the Democratic Party is really aware of the needs and the lived experience of your constituents, of the people of Detroit, and do you think they care?
I mean, it is a bit of an awakening for me to know that many of my colleagues are millionaires. They're in an income bracket that is completely disconnected with the majority of the American people. I remember the first week I got into office in 2018, and I remember going through the orientation, and then at one point there was this conversation about the food bank line and how federal employees were in the food bank line. And many of my colleagues, Democratic members, were just in awe of, like, why are federal employees in the food bank line? How, don't they have savings account? And I looked at them and I said, you don't understand. People live check by check. The American people, majority of them do. And so I can tell you, it is very evident to me that it's not only about making sure that Congress looks like America, but it also talks and feels like what the American experience is like right now. Because they're experiencing a broken healthcare system. They're experiencing corporate greed within systems that, are leaving them behind and allowing them to just really continue to die at a higher rate. And so I know absolutely my colleagues, well-intended or not, don't fully understand what doing nothing feels like and asking people in my district to continue to wait.
How do you respond to centrist Democrats, the establishment, when they tell you that, yes, the fascist threat, the Donald Trump threat still looms, and that's why progressives like you need to stop talking about Black Lives Matter and defunding the police and other progressive changes, because that might scare away conservative white voters?
Yeah, I don't come and tell them how to represent their districts. All I can do is represent mine, and mine are saying that they have a right to live and they have a right to thrive. And so it is so important that for me, I'm not going to allow, other colleagues to come and dictate to my residents what they should be talking about, what they deserve. When you try to silence me, you're silencing my residents. You're telling Black and brown folks, be quiet. It's not your turn. But then you come around and then you ask them to vote for you. You ask them to come out and vote for President Biden and others. My residents struggle every single day. Before this pandemic, they were on survivor mode. They've been told to wait. They've been told, wait for us to fix the school system, wait for us to dismantle mass incarceration, wait for us to really address police brutality. Oh no, wait for us to really combat poverty in our country. They are continually told to wait. They can't wait anymore. I can tell you specifically, if anything, this pandemic has exposed just how broken these systems were, but even how intentionally they've been set up against Black and brown communities like mine. And when I see the rate of COVID deaths being higher among my Black neighbors in a state that only has less than 15% of the population is African American. You think about that for a second, and you see that over 40% of the deaths are coming from our Black communities. That tells you right there that they've waited and now they're dying. They're dying at a higher rate. And so it is so critically important that my colleagues understand that we're going to move with a sense of urgency, and we don't got time to wait for there to be an awakening in your community. If anything, join us. Join us in speaking of the ills of our country. Join us in speaking about the systems that have been broken that allow so many of our neighbors, again, that have been with us, the Democratic Party, in such an overwhelming way, that we would stand with them and say enough is enough.
Because their election will put an end to the block in Washington, that $2,000 stimulus check. That money that will go out the door immediately.
So the Democratic Party campaigned in Georgia promising that $2,000 checks would be going out if they won the Senate seats there, which they did. So why hasn't that happened yet?
Exactly. It needs to happen. We made a promise, we should keep it. People wanted $2,000 checks, and now, I've been demanding from the beginning of this pandemic, it needs to be monthly, reoccurring $2,000. My Automatic Boost to Communities Act, which Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal and I have introduced, has wide support, bipartisan support, really across the country. 7 out of 10 Americans want to see bolder, meaningful direct payments. We call them survival checks. They want to see that. It's unfortunate that we're messing around with that we don't do the same means test for corporations. We don't try to limit when it comes to those folks. But boy, when it comes to actually our residents who are literally, like, at this moment dealing with the most horrific challenge of their lives is a global public health crisis. And so I have to urge my colleagues, wake up and understand what this could do for our families right now is life-changing.
Well, who or why would they try to limit it?
Exactly. And people are making guesses of who or why. I want to follow it. Is it the Chamber of Commerce that I've been hearing is chiming in? Why were they quiet when Trump did it? If it's certain other members of the United States Senate and they're concerned about it, then you know what? Let's go ahead and do a poll within their district and find out. I bet you it'll come back overwhelming saying, no, cut the checks, get us the $2,000. That's what we need right now. And it's their money. It's the people's money. Why don't you spend it on them? You easily spent it on the airlines and Boeing and these big banks easily. But you can't seem to even, remotely understand the urgency of needing it now. And so, that's the big question, who? And then why? Why would we even consider it after we ran and said to them, we're going to get you $2,000? Stop messing with the people's money. They want it. Let's give it to them. And trust me, I know what's going to happen with this. It's going to help our local economy. It's going to give people human dignity because they get to decide, do I pay my water bill, my light bill? They get to decide if it goes towards their rent. And trust me, no one wants to be out on the street. So when we provide this money, it is going to go towards people's quality of life.
From the perspective of so many American people right now, they're like, okay, Democrats, you won the House, you won the Senate, and you have the White House. Where are the checks? There is no excuse at this point, right?
No, and I can tell you, many of my residents have been very vocal about it. Many groups and organizations that really came out to drive the turnout to the benefit the Democrats in Georgia. Many of them are hoping that we won't let them down. I hope that we don't let them down. Again, it is our responsibility to make sure we show up for every single person in our country. And we can't be the ones to say, who deserves more help than not. And again, there's no way that many of my colleagues are going to get attacked for sending money to the very people that elected them.
I want to ask your thoughts on President Biden so far, specifically how he's measuring up to your progressive ideals and the progressive agenda that you ran to put forward. How would you grade him so far?
I think, especially the environmental justice work that I've been seeing come out, it is refreshing and it's a huge major step, especially because a lot of that policy around climate is coming through a racial justice lens, which we rarely saw with any previous administration, even prior to Trump administration. So it is really important that we see, stopping the fossil fuel investments, making sure that we're including frontline communities like mine in my district. I have the most polluted zip code right here in Southwest Detroit in my district, moving forward and saying, how can we also go farther than that and really truly end mass incarceration and continue that conversation. So again, a lot of really hopeful changes already. I'm very, very eager to see the plan for immigration reform. That's going to be huge for my residents. I want to see a plan about how we're going to really address poverty, again, seeing what we're going to do about child poverty specifically.
So is it fair to say that maybe you're cautiously optimistic that President Biden will turn out to be more progressive than folks had anticipated him to be?
I'm not a person that puts people, this one's progressive or not. I'm looking at his actions. I don't want to label as whether it's not. I just know how is this going to impact my district. And so far, it's everything's moving in the direction that I'm hoping it will continue to go. One of the things I told President Biden when he was last in Michigan is, I'm represent the third poorest congressional district. I have a huge challenge ahead of me of really trying to change people's lives immediately. And, he said, I'm going to really need your help. I said, yes, I'm probably not going to be your favorite member of Congress because I'm on a different timeline. I think he and I will have the same goals, but I think our timeline are different. I want this to happen now, where some will continue to tell us to wait and not now and maybe do it in increments, which again, this is not what my residents want to see. They want to see it be able to live their lives fully now. And that means, again, being much more bolder and aggressive about some of these changes that need to happen.
On my very first day of orientation, I got my first death threat. It was a serious one. They took me aside. The FBI had to go to the gentleman's home. I didn't even get sworn in yet, and someone wanted me dead for just existing.
Last week, you delivered a very emotional speech on the House floor, pleading with your Republican colleagues to take what happened seriously. Do you have any hope that they will? And I ask you that bearing in mind that 199 of your Republican colleagues voted to support Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has a history of racist, anti-Semitic, QAnon-supporting beliefs.
I'm hopeful that the people outside of Congress are awakened to the importance of pushing back against these conspiracy and lies that is leading to violence. And the racism and bigotry that is coming out of members of Congress, that, they have a national platform, and if they're using it again to spread violence and harm onto others, then we definitely must stand in unity against that. So I'm extremely hopeful that the people outside of Congress, more than anything, will be urging their elected representatives to do more to combat that. I don't know when some of the awakening will happen and reach the offices of many of those that voted to keep someone like Congresswoman Marjorie Greene on education and on these other committees. But I am hopeful that I think in many ways people across the country are with us, and that we must stand against that form of racism and violence.
There has to be a part of you that's like, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up for my workplace to be attacked by a violent mob. I didn't sign up for my colleague to threaten me on Facebook with an AR-15 rifle. I didn't sign up for all these death threats that you and your colleagues like Representatives Ilhan Omar and AOC get. So how do you deal with this stuff on a day-to-day level?
I think a lot of us said that. Even some of my colleagues that are not new, that have been there longer than I have, are on a number of terms in office, have said the same thing exactly that way. I did not sign up for this. I am, a real social worker at heart. I really want to change people's lives for the better. I want to use the power of this office, the letterhead, the power to convene, to really try to help people, especially because there's so much human suffering right now. And I'm trying to really outwork the hate, outwork all of that toxicity and just, this kind of atmosphere environment that exists right now in Washington, D.C. Among these colleagues that really are not there to help people. They're really there feeding into this, again, fear and hate that's leading to violence. But all I can do is try to focus on my district. I come home every week intentionally because this is where I can breathe. This is where I can continue the work with the neighborhood service centers. This is where I can try to listen to people and translate that into real meaningful change through policy. And so that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to really, truly show love to the people that helped raise me in Wayne County, right here in Detroit. And so it is something that I try to be laser focused on and try not to allow some of my colleagues who ever have other, goals and intentions that I cannot fully understand. but I don't respect it. I can't continue to condone it, and that's why I voted to remove Marjorie Greene from her committee assignments. That's not what any of our families deserve right now.
Have you ever had a face-to-face interaction with Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene?
No, but I passed by her in the halls on my way to vote, and I can feel my body tighten, and even my staff, who my legislative director, who wears hijab, visibly Muslim, I kind of get this big sister mama bear type of approach of like almost, guarding Miriam, my staff person, as we pass by, because I just don't know what she's capable of, especially with the images I've seen her promote.